This is Japi, and welcome to Japi Podcasts.
In partnership with Torrent Pharma, by the makers of Nebicard and Telsar Biso, where science meets care.
I am Dr. Amit Saraf. Welcome to the JAPI podcast of November 2025 issue of JAPI Volume 73, Issue 10. This issue of JAPI has some really interesting articles, including 8 original articles, 3 review articles, 1 point of view, 1 update article, 1 pictorial CME, and 2 letters of correspondence. Let's discuss these in detail. The first original article is titled Evaluating Pioglitazone for Managing Type 2 Diabetes mellitus in a Patient of NAFLD. It was by Panikkar V. et al. A retrospective observational study of 3,350 adults with type 2 with NAFLD was studied. It was conducted at a single center from September 2022 to February 2024. Patient received pioglitazone. Outcome measures at baseline 2 months and 6 months were done. Mean age was 48.6 years in 2/3 and of them were male. Significant A1 reduction of 7.36 to 6.87, which is a P significant value of less than 0.001. Significant triglyceride reduction and fall in cholesterol levels were seen. CAP score, that is a controlled attenuation parameter decrease indicating reduction in hepatic steatosis. Grade 3 fatty liver reduced by 25.7% over 6 months. Fibrosis regression was noted. F2 reduced to 37.5%. Lesser improvement in F4 disease. No major change in body weight or LSM. Pioglitazone was well tolerated overall. Conclusion: pioglitazone improves glycemic control, hepatic fat and fibrosis in NAFLD plus to type 2 DM. Clinically meaningful dual metabolic benefit was observed. The next article is titled Oral Iron Absorption Test as a Predictor of Response to Oral Iron Therapy and Malabsorption Syndromes in IDA. It was by Gaur S. et al. It was a prospective study, 190 confirmed IDA patients. Oral Iron Absorption Test OIAT was performed with 60 mg elemental iron. Serum iron checked at 0 and 2 hours. 34.2% had abnormal OIAT, a blunted absorption. 19.5% had proven malabsorption on further testing. Most common etiologies was H. pylori 54%, autoimmune gastritis 27%, celiac disease 19%. Sensitivity of OIAT for malabsorption 89.2%. Specificity 79.1%. NPV 97.6%. High NPV means normal OIAT, reliable, excludes malabsorption. Conclusion: OIAT is a practical, non-invasive, first-line screen to predict response to iron and identifying malabsorption syndrome in IDA. The high negative predictive value makes it a good first-line screening tool which avoids unnecessary invasive investigations. The next article is on Trends in Glomerular Disease in Northwest India. Has COVID-19 altered the diagnostic landscape? It is by Singh AP et al. Retrospective analysis of renal biopsies pre and post-COVID were done. Compared frequency of glomerular disease in 2 time periods, 925 biopsies from 2020 to 2024, 622 biopsies from 2008 to 2013. All samples underwent a light microscopic and immunofluorescence examination, staining with IgA, IgG, IgM, C3 and C4. Glomerular nephritis remained predominant in 93.9% with significant shift in distribution. IgA nephropathy increased from 7.4 to 15.4%, overtaking MCD, which declined from 21.1 to 8.1% as the leading primarily glomerular disease cause. Focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, FSGS, rose to 12.4%, while diabetic neuropathy, DN, increased to 3.1%. Nephrotic syndrome was the most common presentation in 59.3%. Biopsy volume declined by 60% in 2020, but rebound in 2022. Rise in immune complex glomerular nephritis was noticed in post-COVID era. membranous nephropathy and IgA nephropathy increased, possible role of viral immune activation, vaccine-related immunized postulated, diabetic kidney disease proportionally reduced to fewer biopsies, more nephrotic range proteinuria presentations were seen. Conclusion: COVID era may have shifted biopsy patterns towards immune complex disease, ongoing surveillance needed. The next article is titled Retrospective Observational EMR-based Real-World Study to Assess Prevalence and Treatment of Dyslipidemia in Indian Patients by Kanuru VP et al. Retrospective EMR analysis across multiple Indian centers were done. There were records of 77,57,513 adult patients in EMR database from Jan 2018 to 2023. Of these, 15,20,319, that is 19.6% of patients were diagnosed with dyslipidemia, of which 90,933, 5.98%, were treatment-naive patients, that is newly diagnosed, and 65,535, that is 72.07 patients, had follow-up within 3 months, plus or minus 1 month. The prevalence of dyslipidemia was 19.6% greater with number of males. Diabetes and hypertension were top comorbidities. About more than 50% of dyslipidemia patients with diabetes, hypertension, or diabetes and hypertension with LDL more than 100 mg per deciliter at baseline was observed. In dyslipidemia patients, the coronary artery disease CAD, 47.54 patient had a LDL of more than 100 mg per deciliter at follow-up, and only 4.92 patients had LDL of less than 55 mg per deciliter at follow-up. A number of 67.7% of dyslipidemia patients with chronic kidney disease CKD had LDL of less than 100 mg per deciliter at follow-up. Low to moderate dose rosuvastatin and atorvastatin was mostly prescribed drugs. Conclusion: statins significantly reduce LDL, total cholesterol, and triglycerides in patients with CAD and LDL in patients with CKD. Despite being on lipid-lowering drugs, probably due to low dose, a significant proportion of patients did not achieve their recommended LDL levels, that is less than 100 mg per deciliter at follow-up. The next article is titled Effect of Sleep Quality on Heart Rate Variability in Medical Students, a Cross-Sectional Study by Davar P. et al. A cross-sectional study was conducted at a single institution in North India. The Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, PSQI, was used to assess sleep quality. HRV was recorded. A total of 84 medical students, 54 males and 30 females were participating in the study. The mean total PSQI score of 6.44 with a standard deviation of 2.62, there was a statistically significant negative correlation between PSQI global score and HIV indices. This suggested that poorer sleep quality, the less is a parasympathetic activity and more is a sympathetic activity. The next article is Optimizing Management Beyond Triple Therapy in Stable Severe Chronic Obstructive Pulmonary Disease, Efficacy of Adjuvant Oral Doxycycline in Randomized Control Trial. That is by Thimapuram B. et al. Objective: to assess the efficacy, safety, and tolerability of oral doxycycline in addition to triple inhaler therapy in patients with stable severe COPD. In this randomized control trial, 78 patients were allocated to Group A, triple therapy plus doxycycline 650 mg once a day, and Group B, triple therapy alone. Assessment included COPD assessment test, CAT score, C-reactive protein CRP, spirometry parameters FEV, FEV%, FEV upon FVC, adverse effects, and evaluation were performed on day 0 and day 90. The results showed the following. By day 90, Group A showed greater improvement in CAT score and CRP. Spirometry gains were comparable. Mild complaints like palpitation, tremor, nausea were more in Group A but generally well tolerated. Conclusion: adjunct to oral doxycycline significantly improves symptom burden and systematic inflammation in patients with stable severe COPD without conferring additional spirometric benefits. Although Mild adverse effects were observed. Doxycycline was overall well tolerated and may represent a viable adjuvant option in selected COPD patients with persistent symptoms despite optimized inhaler therapy. The next article is community-based estimates of prevalence of hepatitis B and C infections and their correlates in 2 districts of West Bengal, India, by Sarkar A. et al. A population-based cross-sectional study was conducted during February 2023 to April 2024 in 2 districts of the state adults. Sociodemographic information along with laboratory parameters of hepatitis B and C infections were collected from individuals. Information from 22,320 individuals revealed that the prevalence of hepatitis B and C infections was 0.47 and 0.02% respectively. Hepatitis B infection was higher in males 0.5% and daily laborers 0.8%. In the population, 80.2% was considered susceptible to hepatitis B infection. A significant association of hepatitis B infection was found with history of dialysis, multiple sex partners, and a family history of jaundice. Conclusion: prevalence of hepatitis B and C were lower than earlier estimates done in 2015-2016. A higher proportion of susceptible individuals were among young adults remain a point of concern. As prevalence is low among adults, West Bengal should focus on the elimination of mother-to-child transmission (EMTCT) of human immunodeficiency virus (HIV), syphilis, and hepatitis B virus (HBV) to progress further towards elimination of hepatitis B. The last original article is on evaluating the real-world effectiveness and safety of formoterol fumarate and fluticasone propionate combination in asthma, a prospective multicentric study by Patil S. et al. This 24-week prospective multicentric study evaluated Formoflo 250, which is formoterol fumarate 6 micrograms, with fluticasone propionate 250 micrograms, Transcap DPI, and Formoflo 250 Transhelar MDI in patients aged with 18 to 65 years. The primary endpoint was mean change in trough forced expiratory volume in 1 second FEV1 at week 24. Secondary endpoints includes changes in trough forced vital capacity FVC, asthma control test ACT, and asthma quality of life questionnaire AQLQ scores. A total of 503 patients were enrolled. At week 24, an increase was observed in trough FEV1, FVC, mean ATC score, and a mean AQLQ score. Adverse effects were reported in 7% of patients, primarily mild, with no severe adverse effects or fatalities. The findings were consistent across both Formoflo DPI and MDI formulations. Conclusion was, the combination of formoterol fumarate and fluticasone propionate significantly improves lung function, asthma control, and quality of life, demonstrating marked effectiveness and safety with both DPI and MDI in Indian asthma patients. Now the review articles. Hemophilia, reducing treatment burden with pen devices by Shamukhia C. et al. Hemophilia is a coagulation disorder caused by deficient or absent clotting factors. It is a chronic disease that starts from birth and requires lifelong intravenous administration of anti-hemophilic factors. Healthcare professional HCPs, patients living with hemophilia and their caregivers have reported concerns regarding the challenges associated with intravenous route and the deterioration of their quality of life QOL due to frequent repeated infusions necessary to maintain the desired levels of clotting factors. Patients with hemophilia and their caregivers have often voiced their need for easier methods of treatment administrations, similar to a way insulin is delivered subcutaneously using a pen. Subcutaneous injection using a pen device is a known way to improve treatment compliance and adherence of patients with chronic diseases. The recent introduction of pen devices for hemophilia treatment administration is expected to reduce the administration burden and improve quality of life. The narrative review presents advantages of pen devices and patient and caregiver attitudes towards these newly introduced pen devices in treatment of hemophilia. The next review article is on expanding the diagnostic horizon in COPD, insights from Gold 2025 on early detection and comprehensive assessment by Samajdar SS et al. The 2025 update to the Global Initiative of Chronic Lung Disease (GOLD) guidelines redefines the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease (COPD) diagnostic framework by recognizing early stage condition like pre-COPD and PRSM, preserved ratio impaired spirometry. This new approach captures patients who display early symptoms or structural changes in the lungs but do not yet meet traditional COPD criteria, marking a shift towards early detection and personalized management. By broadening the diagnostic criteria and promoting advanced imaging and biomarker use, GOLD 2025 offers pulmonologists a more precise, individualized approach to assessing COPD. This article examines the implication of these diagnostic updates to clinical practice, emphasizing the importance of proactive interventions to improve outcomes, slow disease progression, and tailor treatment to the unique profiles of at-risk patients. By embracing diverse pathophysiological profiles, the new GOLD framework underscores the necessity of comprehensive diagnostic tools, including imaging, biomarker analysis, to redefine COPD as a preventable and manageable condition. The last review article in this volume of JAPI is a review of efficacy of nanodrug delivery systems. Is it worth the hype? By Gulahenzi, DP et al. Nanodrug delivery systems are gradually becoming current talk of the town due to their efficiency in treating different diseases in a more advanced manner when compared to conventional drug delivery systems. It is well known that drugs can be given through various routes of administration, such as popular oral, subcutaneous, and intravenous routes. It's quite surprising that formulating these same drugs as nanoparticles and administering them to patient could produce better results. Different studies have shown the effects of nanodrug delivery systems in targeting cancer cells, ameliorating pulmonary artery hypertension, and providing improved treatment for ophthalmic conditions such as glaucoma. In most studies, nanodrug delivery systems have shown to exhibit targeted action at a desired site of organ, low toxicity, and fewer systemic side effects. These new insights can provide enhanced understanding of the benefits of nanoparticle formulations of drugs, as well as open up new pathways for future creativity techniques in addressing emerging medical conditions. Furthermore, these formulations generally consist of polymer or liposome-based or coated NPs, as they are easily biodegradable, meaning they have a higher ability to disintegrate and at the same time are not harmful to living tissue, thereby displaying greater compatibility. New connections can be established through utilization of NPs in the treatment of emerging diseases worldwide. Data from these diseases could provide a foundation for groundbreaking innovative strategies in coping with or fighting even the recent COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for listening to JAPI Fastcard. Thank you.